Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of In the Corner. I'm Cash, and today we've episode 159, and we've got a bit of a rant coming in here. Um, on Saturday, we had one of the coolest and most unique events we'll probably ever see in the sport of boxing, Glory in Giza at the Pyramids of Egypt. And I first off just want to say, before we get into the actual fight, the setup for this looked fantastic. The pyramids in the backdrop was amazing. The production value was incredible. The way they walked all those pyramids, they built an entire arena, and it looked really cool. Literally during some of the fights, you can just see in the background the pyramids. I thought it was so much better, well done, and just cooler than the Times Square event they did last year. So I just want to say hats off to them. It was really, really awesome. It felt so unique and so special, and I thought they pulled it off really, really well. Um, As for the event itself, some other things, I thought that the pacing was really bad. I think that Ring Magazine or Riyadh Season in its earlier days had very, very bad event pacing. And with the cards being as long as they are, having 6 world title fights or 10, 12 round fights, things can drag on for a bit. And I thought that they used to be really poor at it. And over time, they've gotten much better at it with these, estimated ring walk times. And I thought that they stuck a little bit too closely to those ring walk times this time around, in that some of them were a little bit late, and we'd have early finishes. We had multiple very early finishes on this card, but then we wouldn't get the next fight until an hour later. In between the co-main and main event, there had to be at least an hour wait. The walkouts for Usyk and Rico are fantastic, so the event itself was really well done. Now, the main event, uh, this was unbelievable. Oleksandr Usyk, two-time undisputed champion, two-division, three-time Olympic gold medalist, undefeated. He's done everything. He's completed boxing. He says, I want to take a little bit of an easier fight for this next one, a big money fight, a big circus attraction. He fights Rico Verhoeven, who, again, I'm not too familiar with kickboxing. He's regarded as the greatest current heavyweight kickboxer and maybe the best heavyweight kickboxer ever. I know that he went undefeated for the last 12 years, something like that, as the Glory kickboxing champion for the heavyweight division. Um, you know, Left there, wanted to go to the UFC, wanted to do boxing, something big. So, okay, let's do Usyk versus Rico. Nobody in their right mind is picking Rico to win this fight. And he is so much better in a fight with Usyk than anybody we have ever seen before. At the time of the stoppage, we'll talk about the stoppage, the first 10 rounds, I had the fight 97-93 for Rico, which I couldn't even believe. Not only that he would be as competitive as he was in the fight, but the fact that he was dominating or should have been dominating the scorecards. Now, the scorecards themselves read 95-95 twice, 196-94 for Rico. And that's very frustrating because boxing is boxing. They didn't want their guy to lose. And Oleksandr Usyk was losing that fight. Have we ever seen a situation where we have 2 rounds left in the fight and Usyk needs a knockout? No, and this is against the kickboxer. It was completely unfathomable. I thought we were on the verge of witnessing the biggest upset in sports history. I mean, this has to be bigger than Mike Tyson, Buster Douglas, because Usyk is maybe more accomplished, definitely more accomplished than Mike Tyson was, and he's fighting not even a world level boxer. He's fighting this guy's in a second fight, and I know there's some asterisks there. He is a legendary kickboxer, but still, it's not his sport. It's not his discipline. And he's fighting the number one guy that we have to offer, the best pound-for-pound fighter in the sport, and he's beating him. And so this was definitely one of those moments where boxing fans were panicking. We were like, man, we're getting Fury and Ngannou again, except this one was even worse because Ngannou does lose that fight. I thought that he beat Fury, but it was a very close fight. It was 5 rounds apiece. This one, the judges had a 5 rounds apiece. I did not. I thought that Rico had a 4-point lead. And then, of course, you get the stoppage. Usyk is getting better in the last few rounds. I did give him round 10. He drops Rico hard in round 11 and then, has him on the ropes, and the referee stops it. Now, the referee actually stopped it after the bell, technically, so the round should have been over. I didn't really hear the bell. It was a whole flustercuck because you've got, the knockdown, then Rico to put his mouth guard in. We don't know what the actual time left in the round is because it was after the clapper. It was so confusing. So I get it. But this was a really, really bad stoppage. When you think of it, I know that you stop the same fight in every fashion you're supposed to, but you do have to give different weight to different things. You have to consider Rico Verhoeven has been winning this fight when nobody thought he would, and this is for the heavyweight championship of the world. If Usyk is in that position and Usyk is getting battered on the rope for 15 seconds and the round is literally ending and the ref knows the round is ending, the ref does not stop Usyk. He does not. he stopped Rico, and that was the first minute of the fight that you could say conclusively Usyk was winning. And I was just blown away. It wasn't even like Rico had some like impeccable boxing ability. He looked weird. He was awkward. He had this weird like kind of plunging forward, just like plodding. His footwork was weird. He was throwing these weird punches, but I think that the whole word weird is why Usyk couldn't crack him. Usyk is usually the guy whose style is odd and hard for other fighters to comprehend and negate. This was him being put in that other position. Usyk didn't really know what to do. I thought that Usyk looked heavier. We know he's weighed 10 pounds heavier than he usually does. I'm more curious if that weight is related to him knowing that Rico was not a Tyson Fury or a Daniel Dubois and not taking this camp as seriously. I think that probably most definitely factored into it. Also, Usyk is 38, 39 years old. At some point, when you stay on for too long, because again, he should have retired after the Fury fights, but he's sticking around to make more money, to get more belts, whatever. You stick around for too long, someone's going to catch you. And it was going to be Rico. Now, I do think that Usyk would go on to stop Rico in the 12th round. And we would still be having this conversation about, wow, look at the phenomenal performance that Rico had. I think he's had the performance of the year. I'm seriously blown away. My mouth was ajar the entire fight. I couldn't believe what I was watching. I thought it was a really poor performance from Usyk. And I thought that he was on the verge of losing it. Now, I do think, again, Usyk stops Rico in the 12th. And even if not, he had a 10-8 round in round 11. And looking at those judges' scorecards, he would have won the fight unless Rico had a knockdown of himself in the 12th round. So it doesn't matter. They would have robbed him either way. Had that fight gone the distance, and unless Usyk got more knockdowns, yeah, Rico should have won it, at least on my scorecard. So I don't know. It's a really, really tough situation. I feel horrible for Rico, knowing what he went through for this camp, to how much work he put into it and how good he looked, to not be given the benefit of the doubt. I know that Mark Lyson said afterwards he did not hear the bell, and that's very frustrating, because like I really wish he just stopped the round. Because again, if Usyk stops Rico in the 12th, we don't have this controversy. In fact, we actually look at Usyk and we say, wow, you're the guy who always gets it done. No matter what, you'll clutch, your ultimate clutch. And that's what he was doing. But I don't know, man. It really left a seriously bad taste in my mouth. I feel for Rico. As for what's next, you have this whole awkward thing where Cabello gets in the ring because, everyone's expecting Rico to lose this fight. And Cabello's like, I'm going to get in the cage anyways and call it Usyk. I don't know, give him the same cage, the ring. He still gets in the ring. He still wants to crack at Usyk. Now Turki gets in the ring, and he says, no. Rico deserves a rematch after that. And so, it's this whole weird triangle, this love triangle they're doing. What is it going to be? It was like, you're going to fight Cabello, you're going to fight Rico. He's like, I'll fight both. Whatever you want, Turki. We don't have an answer. Now, I don't think that Rico's going to get the rematch. I think that Usyk is going to say, I'm not doing that again because he was close and I almost got embarrassed. Probably actually already did get embarrassed. And I don't want to hate on Usyk too much. I love him, but that was crazy. But yeah, I don't think that Usyk is going to want to necessarily go into another awkward fight with Rico again. I think that he'll more so go down the Cabello route, fight him in Germany. We know Istanbul is an option for one of Usyk's fights. As for what I prefer, I don't know if I have a preference. I really want Rico to get another opportunity. If Usyk does go down the route of fighting Cabello, I like that because Cabello has been deserving of Usyk. But if we do that, I think that Rico has to get another big opportunity. I think Turki will make sure that he does. Maybe Rico gets some other big-name heavyweight. Maybe that's how Joseph Parker gets back in the fold. Maybe he fights Deontay Wilder, Fabio Wardley. Maybe he fights like the loser or even the winner of Fury versus AJ. I don't know. But I think that we have to keep him around. I think that he looked amazing, and I think that if he's staying around as a boxer, I think he should be in those Ring Magazine top 10 heavyweight rankings. But who knows? We shall see. It was one of the craziest things I've ever seen, how good Rico did. I think it's more likely that Usyk Cabello happens next, hopefully at the end of this year, but also could be early next year. Let's talk about this undercard. Great undercard. Hamzah Sheeraz completely dominates and eradicates Alen Begic in just 2 rounds. This was probably the biggest mismatch I've seen in a world title fight in quite some time, or at least a vacant world title fight, Sometimes they're ordered, sometimes it's a championship defense. I don't know. But in terms of a vacant world title fight, this was horrible. Begic was undefeated. He was a lot older, but nobody had ever heard of him. And Hamzah Sheeraz was regarded as one of the best prospects in the sport, then contenders, and he is now a world champion. I thought he looked fantastic. His size and I don't know, he's just so strong, and I'm a really, really big fan of Hamzah Sheeraz. I thought that he looked flawless. I mean, it was a really easy fight for him. The level gap was huge, but luckily, only 2 rounds is all it took him, so he can be out relatively quickly. He says he wants to go right into unifications. I'd love that. Jaime Munguia is the fight everyone's talking about. You can do that on the Canelo and Billy undercard in September, and I would love to see that. I'm also okay if he doesn't go straight into unifications, because you look at the WBO rankings, he's got great contenders to fight. Diego Pacheco, that was meant to be the fight. Pacheco didn't want it yet. We know Pacheco fights in July. We don't know against who. Pacheco gets to go in there. Maybe he has confidence. He goes into a fight with Shiraz. Also, Jacob Bank is waiting on his world title shot. I would love to see Shiraz take on Jacob Bank. There's a lot of good options for Hamzah Sheeraz. I'm really excited to see what he does next, and I don't think he's going to be a disappointing champion. I think he's going to fight good names. Jack Catterall completely dominated Shakram Giasov. Wasn't really expecting it to be that one-sided. I only gave Giasov 2 rounds. I gave him the 4th and the 5th. Catterall gets a round 1 knockdown, which was definitely on nobody's bingo card. And I don't know if Giasov never really recovered from that. He couldn't crack the style, but all night it looks like he just had no answers. He was getting bruised and beaten up. And Catterall's not even the most dangerous puncher, but is just much, much better, I guess. And I don't know. I think Giasov is a good fighter. We know he's a top-level amateur and Olympian, and those skills, I guess, just haven't really transferred as well into the pro game. I do feel bad for him. He waited on his mandatory shot for so long. He does get the shot here as a WBA regular championship, and he loses it. We know that Catterall is now he's now ordered to fight Rolly Romero. At least he will be. Now, Rolly did say on Twitter, apparently they're saying on commentary, that he is done with the sport. He's walking away with it. He's retiring. I don't believe that for a second. I didn't see that anywhere. I think Rolly will stay around. We'll see if Rolly ends up vacating his title or what. But I really like Rolly Catterall as a fight. Going back to Usyk and Cabello for a second, I just remember that Frank Warren's statement on all of it. Frank Warren is saying that he will not stand for an Usyk-Rico rematch. He said a while ago, he says, we need the Usyk-Cabello fight. As soon as Usyk is done, the WBC is ordering that fight. We need to see that one next, and we're going to fight to make sure it happens. And he does not want to see Usyk-Rico too. He's going to demand they make Usyk-Cabello. If not, Usyk's getting stripped. So, Frank Warren definitely has his thumb on the WBC to make that fight happen, and I think it will happen. If not, Cabello's next fight will be for the WBC World Championship. I guarantee that, whether it's Usyk or not. Although I do hope it is against Usyk. Also on the card, speaking of heavyweights, we decided that Frank Sanchez will be the mandatory for the IBF. With Usyk, he completely flatlined Richard Torres in just 2 rounds. That was really unexpected. I picked Torres going into this fight just because I thought Sanchez was up there. His knee, he's kind of slow. And I thought that actually Torres was too fast. I thought that he came out swinging. He came out with this real twitchy stance and trying to make it an inside fight. And it's like, dude, you cannot go punch for punch with Frank Sanchez. He is the boogeyman. He lost to Cabello. Before that, nobody wanted to fight him because of the power he carries. You do not stand there and try and make an inside fight with him. You will not win that. Use your twitchy stance to move around him until you get to round 7, 8. Sanchez is going to be tired. That's when you go in for the kill. So I think it was a really bad game plan approach for Richard Torres. And he had to pay for it. I mean, he got knocked out, didn't know where he was. A lot of memes on Twitter. And good for Frank Sanchez. I felt like he had kind of been written off. In my head, I kind of wrote him off. And now he's in the top 10 again. He's going to be getting that IBF title shot soon, I guess. Unless he fights somebody else, that'll take it from him. But he is in line. And a big win for him, a big loss for American boxing, we always have these American heavyweights that we hype up, and we're ready to see them kind of take over the shield for the sport and do their thing. And first it was Jared Anderson, and now Richard Torres, both of whom get knocked out in their step-up fights. So it sucks to see. I was worried if this was a step too soon for Torres. I loved that he was taking the fight, but I think that in retrospect it probably was a step too soon, and he may just be a little bit too chinny to be a top-level heavyweight. Obviously he was knocked out by Jalalov in the amateurs in the Olympics. So we shall see, man. But it was definitely a tough one. Mizuki Hiruta and May Sullivan was a hell of a fight. Hiruta wins. I had to give her 8 of the 10 rounds. I thought she looked really good. But it was a very scrappy fight. Really fun, entertaining. Probably the fight of the night. Actually, no, the main event was the fight of the night. Fight of the undercard. But yeah, and then Haruta, says she wants unifications. Gabriela Fandora is likely to move to 115. That's a great fight to make. They're both Ring Magazine champions. I think that it could happen. I definitely do not want to see just another title defense. I think they said this was her 7th title defense of the WBO belt. Like, at some point, we got to unify. Daniel Lappin upset by Benjamin Mendez-Tani. That was pretty crazy. I wasn't expecting it, but I'm not going to say I was surprised. He gets stopped in just 4 rounds. Got tired quickly. I've always thought Daniel Lappin was good but not great, and sooner or later he was going to get upset. I thought Louis Edmondson beat him last year. He didn't get that decision. Now, Tani gets the stoppage over him in just 4 rounds, so hopefully we see him in another big fight. I'm sure a lot of other light heavyweights will want to crack at him. Prelims, Jamar Talley, the second-round knockout. He's a Zuffa boxing prospect. Sultan Al Mohammed had like a 1-minute knockout. Some Egyptian prospects as well. He was a good card. Let's talk about the other fights we had this weekend. Over in California, you had Amari Jones versus Vincenzo Gualtieri, and this was really the breakthrough performance for Amari Jones when he goes from prospect to contender. He stepped up big time here, taking on a former world champion. First 12-round fight, first main event, IBF title eliminator, and he completely dominated Gualtieri and stops him in just 3 rounds. It took Janibek, I believe, 6 rounds to stop Gualtieri. So I was super impressed with Amari Jones. It was like seriously a flawless performance. Lots of knockdowns delivered in the 3rd round. The man is a killer. He seems very smart and very, well focused, well disciplined. And I'm just becoming a really big fan of him. And now he is right in that position. We know that Aaron McKenna and Etinos Oliha are to be fighting for the vacant title this summer. Hopefully, Amari Jones is going to be their mandatory. He'll be next in line. And yeah, I feel like the middleweight division is finally getting a little more interesting with guys like Amari Jones entering the fray. Really good prospect coming through. And he's now a contender, like a legitimate contender. Yamil Peralta and Robin Safar had a great, very, very competitive fight. Robin Safar wins that one by split decision. I thought he won the fight 115-112. Excuse me. I thought that he clutched it in the last few rounds after being neck and neck. He was dropped in round 2, and this was a bit of an upset on my card, at least. I had Peralta winning. So, really good for Robin Safar. He's now in a good position to fight for that WBC title held by Noel Mikhailian. If not, the rematch with Peralta is another great fight. It was a really entertaining one. And yeah, I was very impressed by both men. And again, cruiserweight and middleweight are 2 divisions that feel like they've been not as interesting the last few years. So I'm glad that we're getting, fights like this to put them on the main stage and show how good those divisions are and how good the fighters that are in them are. This was good for Robin Safar, too. He really needed this win for his career. Also on the card, Darius Fulgham. He gets a 4th round, well, I guess in between rounds 3 and 4 finish over Yoanki Urrutia. Bit of a mismatch, but I thought Fulgham looked really good in his return. He needed this win, and hopefully he can get into big fights again this year. Tristan Calcruth also had a stoppage win. His came in the 6th round. That was actually a pretty fun fight with Marco Canedo. Canedo was a lot more competitive than I was expecting, and Calcruth had to fight for it, but it was entertaining. And then Jordan Fuentes had a decision win to kick off that card. Over in Brussels, Belgium, you had the PFL bag, and I thought this was one of their better cards. It was super entertaining. I just got to give a shout-out to Team Belgium with the PFL and in MMA in general. They've got like a 95% finish rate across the country's fighters. Patrick Habirora completely eradicates Benson Henderson in 20 seconds. Now, we knew this was a squash match. We knew this was likely to happen. It's still impressive to see him do that quickly. Henderson is way past it, but this is still a legend, and Habirora taking on anyone that quickly is super impressive. I'm ready to see him go to big heights in the PFL, fight for that title soon. I believe that he's at welterweight. If he fights the winner of this Thad Gene fight on July 25th, oh my gosh, that would be that would be something. He calls out Mike Perry, bit of a weird call out, asking him to come to the PFL. I don't think that we'll see that one, but I like it. Boris Atangana as well, another Belgian guy. He's a middleweight. I don't know how he looks like he's 230 pounds of pure muscle, but he completely ran through Jared Gooden in 1 minute. So that is, they had a combined fight time of I think probably 90 seconds. And yeah, he's another one that I may even enjoy him more. He's just such a killer, and I love both those fighters. They're super entertaining, and they both got more incredible finishes. And he also needs to be stepped up and fight big guys. Taylor Lapilus has a decision win over Jake Hadley. I thought Hadley was decent to hang in there all 3 rounds and be competitive in spots. But yeah, dominant 30-27 all the way around for Lapilus. Naoki Inoue gets the win over Marceli Alves in like a Ryzen versus PFL fight. I thought Alves did enough. I gave him rounds 2 and 3, and I gave Inoue round 1, so I'm not mad at the decision, although I did have it going the other way. I think most people did, but it was a great fight. That was probably the fight of the night. Asael Ajuj had a phenomenal second-round knockout over Keisuke Sasu. Gustavo Oliveira, big submission in the second round of the featured prelim fight over Barris Adiguzel. That was an upset. Donegi Abena, that was a weird one where Joe Schilling gets hit with a headbutt, and it was a pretty, clear headbutt that Abena threw, and then refuses to fight. He just refuses to fight after that and says, nah, man, I'm done. And it gets a loss because of it. So that was Abena's pro debut. Definitely not the way you want to start your MMA career, but you get the win, I guess. It is what it is. Some other impressive wins on the undercard. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I feel like PFL always delivers in Belgium. And honestly, Europe in total. I feel like their European cards are so much more entertaining than their American cards. But maybe that's just me. You also had some other fights. One in Germany. Bakary Samake loses to Emal Hadrubiaj. This was definitely an upset. Remember, this fight was supposed to happen last month in Paris. Samake's first real big fight was the WBC Super Welterweight Eliminator. I thought it was really competitive the whole way through, but Hadrubiaj ends up being the one to leave with his O. I thought that he edged the fight 115-113. Again, he clutched it in those last 3 or 4 rounds. And he's now mandatory for Fundora or Ortiz. I don't know because they already have the mandatory for Fundora, and that is Ortiz, although that fight's probably never going to happen. But now Hadrubiaj is in the circle, and I think that he'll probably be the one who ends up getting the Fundora fight. So that was good. You also had BKFC 889, Jamel Herring dominating Michael Larimore to win a 50-44 decision to become the new BKFC bantamweight champion. 1 knockdown thrown in there. I thought that Herring looked really good. Again, he's cannot compete at the world level in boxing anymore. However, he is much better of a boxer than a lot of these BKFC fighters, and the crowd doesn't like it because it's not wars, but he just kind of stays on the outside and jabs their heads off and dominates them like that and outboxes them, and he gets the decision. So you got to do what you got to do. This is his second fight in the promotion. He's already champion, and lots of good fights for him to have over there. Cody Vidal, first round knockout. Levi Costa, first round knockout. David Diaz and Anthony Sanchez had a great 5-round war. That was probably they were talking about it could be the fight of the year for the BKFC. Sanchez gets the win just on account of those early knockdowns. Diaz loses, but then proposes to his girlfriend afterwards. I thought it was really fun. They had a lot of great finishes. Eric Soto, Evgeny Kurdanov. It was a good BKFC card. They got another one next week in Birmingham with, of course, Darren Till making his debut. Cannot wait for that. It was a good weekend for combat sports. Lots to enjoy. And we're about to go into an even bigger one. Actually, I don't know if I'd say even bigger because we did have Usyk versus Rico, but an even busier one this next weekend. Now, we also did have another Pro Box TV event in Mexico. I haven't watched that one yet. And you had the Brand Risk card where Johnny Manziel finished Bob Mendrigan, I think, round 1. That was weird. It was at the Apex. Dana White was there. Sean Strickland was there. Armin Sarukian, Teofimo Lopez, Hunter Campbell. All of these stars and a lot of these streamers and stuff. But a lot of people from actual UFC and boxing were there commentating. I thought that this was the first time in a while that we've seen a lot of actual hype for YouTube influencer boxing, whatever you want to call it. You had NBA fighters fighting. You had Ray J getting knocked out cold. It was definitely an interesting one. I didn't really watch it, but I saw the clips afterwards, and Aiden Ross is definitely cooking with something there, and the production value looked really good. Okay, let's get into some other news. We did the first press conference for Canelo Alvarez, Christian and Billy. Main takeaway is that I feel like Canelo's kind of got a little bit of his fire back. He seems to really want it and talked a little bit of smack to him, Billy, but not disrespectful, just saying no, he's a good fighter. He's never going to beat me in a million years. He has 0% chance. He wouldn't beat me even if I was 50. And I think Canelo's right. I love him, Billy. I think he can give Canelo some issues maybe, but I think Canelo's going to dominate him likely by decision. I don't think he stops him. But what is good is that Mbili is an all-action fighter. He will bring that out of Canelo. We will not have another stinker like we had with Canelo versus Williams Cole. This should be an exciting fight for 12 rounds. The WBA have officially ordered Tank Davis versus Floyd Schofield. This is a bit of a disappointment to me. I thought that Tank Davis should have been stripped. I don't know why he hasn't. We were told months ago he was being stripped. Apparently he is not. They're now ordering him to fight Kid Austin. I'm just waiting for Schofield to get his title shot. I thought he and Body were going to fight for the vacant strap. That was all just bogus. So it looks like he's going to get a big fight with Tank. If Tank comes back, I want the WBA to put their foot down, have some backbone for once, and tell Tank, look, you fighting or not? If you're not, that's okay, but we're taking your belt. Because Floyd Schofield's been out of the ring for almost a year waiting on this, and he only fought once last year, and it was 1-round knockout. So he needs to get active again, and I hope he gets a big fight with Tank, but if not, fine. Have him fight Lucas Body for the vacant strap. Some other updates on the Scott Coker planned MMA league launching next year. So they're going to have 12 events next year, launching in January. It is a World Grand Prix tournament with one weight class focused on. They'll have events in Europe, Asia, and U.S. Certain events that are already named in the U.S. are the Bay Area, New York, Los Angeles, possibly Hawaii. That'd be pretty cool because UFC doesn't really go there. They said they're open to working with other promotions, and they're signing free agents and building prospects. So I think a lot of that sounds good, like the events where they're going, the building fighters, the working with other promotions. What I don't like to, and the amount of events they're planning on doing, what I don't like to hear is we don't have a name, we don't have any fighters, we don't have any broadcast deal yet, so we can't really actually put any faith into it. And I hate this Grand Prix tournament. I know Bellator was a lot better at it than PFL, but I feel like it just doesn't really work in MMA the way that they want it to work in MMA, and it's just not as interesting. People lose interest, and it took PFL years to realize that, and I think this has been the best year for the PFL in their history because they're not doing any season or tournament format, and I just hope that Scott Coker has a realization that that's not the route that fans want to see. It was a cool idea a while ago, not really anymore. Tyson Fury is set to have a warm-up opponent announced this week for another fight before the AJ one. This is a very big disappointment to me. I don't want any more warm-up fights. I'm tired of it. Fury just had one with Makhmudov. Now he's going to have another one. He's going to fight 3 times this year. There's no way this actually happens, right? When is he going to fight? He's going to fight this guy in, August, September, and then go into a fight with AJ in November? No. You already had your warm-up fight. AJ's having his, even though he already had one with Jake Paul, really. But he did have the tragedy in Nigeria, so it's understandable why he, took a while out of the ring and wants to ease back in, but Fury already had his warm-up. Why do we need to do this again? I don't want any more banana peels to be slipped on. Please just make this fight happen, and I don't need another fight. I did see the soccer player Zlatan Ibrahimovic posting he's going to fight Fury in Dublin on August 1st. I don't think that's happening. I don't know what that was, but if that's what it is, then oh my gosh. Zurdo Ramirez was arrested in Mexico the other day. I think he got into some kind of a fight. The mugshot's pretty funny. It's out of usual suspects. So hope everything's good with him and he can get it figured out. I hope he's not taking the loss to Benavidez too harshly. But speaking of Benavidez, apparently Turki Al-Sheikh is looking to make him fight his fight with Jai Opetaia for, they said, undisputed cruiserweight championship. It'd be the Ring Magazine title on the line, but IBF and WBC belts wouldn't be on the line. So I don't know. That is the best fight in the division. I do want to see Benavidez fight Bivol as well, but if he stays at cruiserweight and doesn't want to go back down, that's cool with me. Bivol can fight Smith or someone, or Peterbiev even. I want to see Benavidez Opetaia. That is a absolute bloodbath and a brilliant cruiserweight championship. Another good fight. Oleksandr Iglesias is reportedly in negotiations to defend his title against Carlos Adames. We know Adames is looking to move up to 168. This would be a huge fight for him to walk straight into a title fight, and him and Iglesias I think is very competitive. So I would like that one a lot. I hope this fight does happen. I think it's a great fight. Lester Martinez is rumored to be fighting Luka Plantic on August 29th in LA, defending the WBC interim title. We know that they were planning on him having a fight in August, and Luka Plantic I think is a great opponent. I believe he's undefeated. He's been in those rankings at 168 for a while, so that'd be a very good, credible opponent. And then should Lester Martinez beat him, maybe he gets a crack at Canelo, maybe he gets a crack at another champion. We'll see. But looking forward to that. There is reports that Ricardo Sandoval will actually be returning on June 20th. This is what Chris Mannix said on the broadcast on Friday. Apparently Golden Boy, doesn't want to keep him too inactive. It's going to be almost a year out of the ring, and he's not the one who got injured. It was Yafai, so looking to put together a very last-minute show. It was later then reported that Sandoval versus Joali Mosqueda is in advanced talks to happen June 21st in San Diego. And I think that's a pretty good opponent. Yoel Mosqueda is hanging around that top 15 or so of the division, and that's a good opponent for him to, defend his titles against and get to stay active and get another title defense. Apparently, they've also signed Oscar Collazo versus Joey Canoy, and that would either be co-main event on this event, or if Sandoval Mosqueda doesn't happen, then they would move it to another date and in another venue. So Collazo's got his next fight set. Again, I want to see him unify. I want to see him fight Kus or Tataran. I don't care. I want to see him go to undisputed or move up. I'm tired of just pointless title defenses. I'm happy for Kanoy to get his title shot, but I mean, I want to see something. I want to see something with actual stakes on it. Carissa Shields said that she's going to be suing Alicia Baumgardner and MVP for defamation after they banned her from events when she slapped Alicia Baumgardner. Yeah, good luck in court. It's not defamation if they're banning you for something that you on video did. Like you slapped Alicia Baumgardner at the fight. That's not defamation to say, yeah, we didn't like you assaulting somebody at our fight and one of our fighters. You can't come anymore. That's not defamation at all. So good luck in court, but it is definitely funny and unfortunate because I thought Clarissa and MVP could be a really good link-up one day, but no way that's happening now. We have the UFC Belgrade main event official. It is Uros Medic versus Daniel Rodriguez. Got to be honest, I thought that we were getting Uros Medic versus Leon Edwards. That felt like the fight. Again, that's potentially setting Edwards to just become a journeyman and go on a 4-fight losing streak should he lose to Medic, but he gets a main event. I don't know. That's no longer the case. Daniel Rodriguez, fresh out of prison or jail or whatever. He was in jail in Mexico for a few months, I think. And he is in the top 15. But yeah, he's definitely going to lose his fight to Medic. And not the best main event, but Medic had to be main event for this card. Just wish it was against a better opponent. Because it's just not really a big fight for the UFC. Co-main event has been announced to be Oleksandr Usyk moving up to heavyweight to take on Marcin Tybura. So another new face in the heavyweight division, and that should actually be a pretty decent fight. So, maybe we're cooking with a little bit of something there. We shall see. Some other fights that have been announced. Austin Trout versus Ben Bonner will headline this BKFC Liberty Brawl on July 3rd. That's a great fight. Makes sense to do this on the July 3rd card because it is US versus UK, the 250th celebration of America. And it's a fight we've been waiting on for a long time for this lightweight title. So I think that one makes sense. Co-main event is going to be Britton Hart versus Sarah Schell. So 2 title fights on this card. I was hoping for something maybe a little bit bigger like Andrei Arlovsky returning, but we'll take what we can get. I'm sure the rest of the card will be big, but it's a good main event. We also know that Lorenzo Hunt will be headlining BKFC 91 in Naples. He'll be fighting Pugliese. So that's a good fight. And excited to see Lorenzo Hunt not out of the ring for a super long time. And just a few months later, he will be back off of his Knucklemania win. Sergio Pettis versus Louis McGrillen will be the co-main event to PFL Austin on July 18th. That's a good one. A little bit of a random fight, I guess. But, they're bringing McGrillen stateside. And Sergio Pettis, he did lose that fight to McKee. That was a huge upset. So, bounces back fighting another up-and-coming prospect. But that is a good fight. So, looking forward to that. Caitlin Vieira has been removed from the UFC roster. We don't know if she was cut or if she left on her own, but she just had a win over Jacqueline Cavalcanti literally last week, and now she's already out of the rankings. She was a top 5 bantamweight, so this is definitely pretty surprising. I would love to hear why this happened, why she's left, why she's been removed. I don't know. It wasn't the greatest fight, but I think it was a piss poor, not entertaining at all fight. But I don't know. Really weird situation there. We've got ProBox TV. They announced one of their next cards is going to be July 18th, I believe in California. And I got to be honest, a lot of the ProBox cards this year haven't really blown me away. This one looks pretty good. You got Brian Flores fighting Jonathan Navarro in the main event. Really good fight there. Co-main event is going to be Joshua Anton taking on Vlad Hernandez. Excited to see Vlad Hernandez back in the ring and Anton taking on another tough fight. That's a really good matchup, actually. Adelaida Ruiz is going to defend her title against Ginny Fuchs. So that's a world title fight. Ginny Fuchs has been interim champion for so long. I feel like that fight we've been waiting for that one to happen for a while, and now it finally is. And then Ruben Aguilar will be returning, taking on Trayshawn Wiggins. We've also got Anthony Cuba versus Misael Cabrera, and they have Charles Harris fighting Jason Limon. So 6 well-matched fights. You got to love ProBox. Big card coming up July 18th. Really looking forward to that one. And then the last bit of news for today, Michel Rivera is suing Salida Promotions for failing his contract where he had a minimum number of fights per year, and he's requesting release from it. Yeah, I hope he gets out of it because I'm going to be honest, I totally forgot that this guy existed. No idea, that I was thinking, I was like, wait, yeah, where has he been? Why has he not fought? The Salida's cards have been leveling up. They've been doing way more events, and we haven't heard from him at all. And now he's saying that they're not giving him any fights, so it looks like he wants to fight and they're not letting him. Yeah, so I definitely want him to get out of his contract. He was not the greatest prospect in the world, but he seemed to be decent, and he's been inactive for, I think, almost 2 years. So really, really weird situation. Hopefully it all gets resolved. But that's all I've got for today. Thank y'all so much for listening. How do you feel about Usyk versus Rico? I thought it was a great event. I thought it was a great fight. I was blown away by how good Rico looked and how he was beating Usyk. It shouldn't even make sense, but he was doing it and he got robbed. So that's my 2 cents on it. Thank y'all for listening. Have a good week and peace out.